What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Crush City Territory. I'm Chandler Rome, along with Tyler Stafford. And Tyler, there's a lot going on, so we'll get to that. Don't worry. I know everyone is wondering: is Alex Bregman coming back? Is Ryan Presley gone? Is Jose Altuve going to be climbing the Crawford boxes? Like everyone wants to know that. But first off, we buried this at the end of the last podcast, so I feel like we have to say this at the beginning. You guys hit the goal. We got more than 60 actually. We're more than 60 Apple reviews. So I'm excited to tell you that Josh has agreed. Josh Reddick will do the next show from a ski lift in Breckenridge, Colorado, while wearing his Team USA ski getup. Have confirmed we are tentatively going to record on Wednesday. I can't promise it'll be the most aesthetically pleasing podcast. I can't promise that Josh's audio will be great, but we live for you guys. We live for the consumer. And Tyler, we are going to get Josh Reddick on a ski lift because the fans of this podcast made it so.
Yeah, it's exciting. I know I had a favor review. I think yours is the same. We both saw one and got very excited that just said the podcast is good. Both of their faces are fine, which, hey, that's all I'm looking for in a podcast review.
What do I owe Alicia for that podcast?
Exactly. Yeah.
Alicia,
yeah, I paid my wife. Hey, make sure both of our faces look fine.
I'll send her Venmo after we finish recording this very interesting episode, because since we last talked to you, basically all hell has broken loose.
Keeps happening.
Yeah, the Astros are on the verge of trading Ryan Presley. We'll get to that toward the end. I think what everyone is now focused on and is front of mind is that the Astros are back in on Alex Bregman, and a situation that I did not envision coming, a situation that Dana Brown this weekend still characterized as a long shot of happening. But Tyler, I guess, can I get your initial reaction when the reporting started coming out on Thursday from USA Today, from The Athletic, that, you know, the door is still open for Alex Bregman to return to the Astros, even with Isaac Paredes and Christian Walker on the roster? What was your first thought?
Well, my first thought was, man, this news really came out of left field. Am I right, Chandler?
That's a good one.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
I appreciate it. I mean, yeah, I love Alex Bregman. I hope he plays for the Astros. That'd be really fun. I would love to see Jose Altuve play the outfield. I think that would be extremely entertaining. But honestly, it's indicative of like what is going on with Bregman's market too, right? Like I think it's just showing that they being Boris and Bregman to an extent really overshot, I think, the amount of offers coming. Obviously you're digging into it a little bit more, but I would assume they still have obviously some long-term offers out there, but I would guess that they were expecting just a bigger volume of them. And so, yeah, I would love for Bregman to come back. I'm very excited for even just the carrot of hope there.
Yeah, it's something that while it is being characterized as a long shot, now I think there's a realistic path here, because as I've reported and as I understand it, the Astros 6-year, $156 million offer to Bregman remains on the table. Without being in the Boris Corps headquarters or without being in Alex Bregman's shoes, like I can't tell you I know every offer he has, but suffice to say that one has to be near the top of the offers that he has gotten this offseason. And Bregman likes stability. Bregman knows this clubhouse. Bregman knows this city. He wants to come back. I mean, it's not a situation where this is something where he just shut off all ties here, but he wanted to explore the free agent market. He wanted to see what was out there for him. He's never gotten to experience this. And I think when this sort of stuff happens, fans kind of forget how players view free agency. Like, free agency is a big deal to players. Like, getting there is a massive deal because it means you've spent 6 years in the big leagues. Bregman's got more than that, obviously, had the extension pre-arbitration, but it means you spent 6 years in the big leagues. It means you get to pick your destination for the first time in your career. And you get to see your market value, you get to see your market worth, and that intrigued Alex Bregman. There are other players that doesn't intrigue them. Jose Altuve never wanted to play anywhere else. He was Astro for life. He didn't want to see what 29 other teams were going to pay him. He told Jim Crane, he told Scott Boras, like, I want to be here, make it work. And they made it work. That's not how it goes all the time. So I think the vilification of Bregman that I've seen from some Astros fans, from some fans in general, that he turned down that first offer, I think is a little ludicrous. I mean, it's a free country. It's a free market. I mean, he has earned the right to see what else is out there. But now, Tyler, now that he has seen what's out there, there are other teams in on this. You know, there's 4 other teams that are actively in Bregman's market. It's the Blue Jays, it's the Tigers, it's the Red Sox, and it's the Cubs. I'm not sure he has the years that the Astros have offered him of the 6-year deal. I'm not sure he has the years. The money may be comparable other places. There may be other places where they can make the money comparable on a shorter term, higher AAV deal. But the Astros, they have offered him the biggest deal in franchise history. It's a 6-year, 156. It's the biggest deal in Astros history they've offered. Tyler, I guess now moving forward, as we kind of get into our second round of Bregman watch, do you have a feeling of where this goes? Do you have an inkling, a hunch of how this plays out?
I mean, at this point, I feel like it's got to be a decision for Bregman of, do I want to, take a shorter deal with, take another shot at this in 2 or 3 years, right? Maybe it's similar to like the Correa initial deal with the Twins, whatever that was, a couple years ago, and say, okay, I'm going to take a 2-3 year deal with a couple of opt-outs that have a higher AAV and try it again. Or do I want to take 6-7 years, but I mean, unless somebody's like blowing out the Astros offer on the year side, like I said, I think it comes down to, do you want a shorter term deal and try again, or do you want to come back to Houston and do that? But I mean, we don't want to talk about it yet, but there's, an impending lockout, right, in a year or two. And so I don't know. If I'm Bregman, I'm looking to get as long and as much money as I can. And yeah, on the fan side, I mean, I don't know. I think the Astros fans that I interact with don't tend to have quite as much vitriol in general. I think it's a lot more just sadness. Those are the fans that I hang out with. So it's not like, how dare Bregman go? It's like, oh man, we're not good enough for, like that. That's the vibe of my group chats that I'm in. But yeah, he's absolutely earned the right to do it. And like you said, most players don't even make it that far. And if they do, they're certainly not like looking at it like, oh, the whole league is going to be interested in me. I could be a fit anywhere. I'm going to have all of these different offers. Like, that's just not the case. And so I don't blame Bregman at all for wanting to see what free agency looks like. I mean, shoot, I get 3 messages a week on LinkedIn saying, are you interested in these jobs? And even though I have a job, every time I see one, I click on it and kind of poke around the company and see, I mean, like that's human nature. I don't think that's anything like negative about him as a person or about his time in Houston. Like that's the way the game works.
It should be noted too that, I like to think I have a little bit of knowledge of what's going on in this situation as the suitors and the offers and things of that nature. But let's remember, like a month ago, that Corbin Burns signed with the Diamondbacks completely out of nowhere. Just because, I've done as much reporting as I can on this, and I can tell you that these 5 teams are in. Like, there's always a mystery team. There could be a team that just swoops in that says, you know what, we want Bregman for 7 years and 200 million, and he takes it. And it's not a team we're talking about. That has literally happened with a Scott Boras client this offseason with Corbin Burns. So take that grain of salt as well. I have been thinking lately, though, Tyler, what do you think this says about kind of the state of the Astros that they're even considering this? That, you know, they could report to West Palm Beach tomorrow and roll this team out, this current roster, and you know it's a team that can contend and win the AL West. I don't know if they could do much more than that, but it's a contending team. It's a good roster. The fact that they're even thinking about this, the fact that they are even entertaining the thought of playing Jose Altuve in left field. What do you think Jacob Melton thinks about that? What do you think, like, what do you think it says about the state of their minor league system that they are willing to offer 6 years to Alex Bregman to play third base for the next 6 years when they've got Bryce Matthews in the farm, they've got now Cam Smith in the farm. Jose Altuve is here till 2029. He's going to have to play somewhere. Jordan Alvarez is here until 2028. He's going to DH. They're not going to play him more in left field as he gets older. To me, Tyler, this honestly screams, we know we don't have much. We know that the guys down there are probably not the core, because let's face it, the reason Carlos Correa walked was because they had faith in Jeremy Pena. The reason Garrett Cole walked and the reason Zach Greinke walked, the reason Justin Verlander walked the first time was because they had faith in Hunter Brown, Framber Valdez, Luis Garcia, Jose Urquidy, Christian Javier. They don't have faith in what's down there right now. This is my opinion. This is not they're not, look, the Astros are not going to go on the record and say, oh, we hate all our minor leaguers. We hate our system. It's terrible. This is my analysis on this situation, that they must feel pretty bleak about what they have down there. If they are willing to do this with guys that, look, if this all happens and Bregman comes on this deal of some length, I mean, Jose Altuve is here until 2029. Jordan Alvarez is here until 2028. This is not something that Isaac Paredes has 3 more years of team control too. This is not something that they can just say, oh, we'll do this for a season and then like switch it back next year. Like, this is a long-term sort of thing. Do you see where, like, do you agree with that? Do you kind of see where I'm coming from?
Yeah. I mean, certainly the farm system does not have the top end talent, you know, that they had for a while. But honestly, I think it says a lot about the state of their major league outfield, right? Like, if they were super confident in Chas McCormick and Jake Myers, you could look at the roster and say, all right, we'll roll the dice with, you know, the 3 or 4 guys we have down here, and maybe one of them works out. But if not, it's okay. You know, like, if it's, you know, 3 or 4 years ago and George Springer and Kyle Tucker in the outfield, like, you're probably not super worried about who's going to fill out the outfield. But the truth is like, McCormick and Myers are just as much of question marks as any prospect coming up, right? Like, I don't think there's anybody in the Astros front office that could look at you with a straight face and say, we're confident that these guys are going to do X, Y, and Z on their stat line. Like, who knows, right? And so I think that's part of it. The other part of it is that the Astros are in a win now window. And I mean, it's astounding that they've been in a win now window for a decade. Like, that doesn't happen. Normally you get to kind of ride the road. You know, you see, I mean, the Marlins every 20 years pop up and they win one World Series and then trade off the entire team, right? Or you see, like, a couple years ago when the Tigers just had a bunch of aging veterans and they, you know, trade off everybody, right? Like, the Astros haven't had the ability to do that because they have continued to be good, right? Like, normally you have a core and it dissipates and then you go like, all right, we got to reset. And the fact that the Astros have been able to extend this window is remarkable. But that's why that, you know, you're in this win now mode. And Yeah, I remember. Um, this will tell you a little bit about me as a child, but every single morning as a kid before school, I would eat breakfast at the kitchen table and read the sports section of the Houston Chronicle. So me and Jose De Jesus Ortiz have been chatting for 30 years, whether he realizes it or not. But I remember reading the like Jeff Kent is coming to the Astros, Biggio is going to move to the outfield, and feeling like scared, sad. Like I was like, how dare you come in and move my friend Craig Biggio off of second base? But worked out pretty well for the Astros then. And yeah, if Altuve is willing to do it, I mean, defensively, those are the two positions that, honestly, it doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, you want defensive talent if you can there, but it's not like you're gonna, you're not gonna lose a season based off who you're running out there in those positions. It's more important to have the bat in there. But yeah, to answer your question, like I think there's talent in the system. I don't think there's like clear cut, this person's ready, we're confident counting on him talent, both in the minors and at the major league level, specifically in the outfield.
All right, you brought it up, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about Jose Altuve in left field. Like, it's wild to me. I grew up in Louisiana. I wasn't watching the Astros back then. Like I don't have that thing to fall back on of watching Craig Biggio go try to play left field when Jeff
Center
Kent
field. He played center.
Oh wow, how was he? Was he any good?
Well, I mean, I was 12, so everyone was great because they were wearing my colors. I doubt it.
Jose Altuve talked at FanFest this weekend, and there was some reporting out there that he had approached Jim Crane and said, "I'll play left field." Jose Altuve said that no one has talked to him about moving to the outfield. He said that he has not brought that up. He did say that he's willing to do whatever it takes to get Alex Bregman back. And, I specifically asked, does that include moving to the outfield? And he said, yes, I'll do whatever it takes. So he's on board.
Follow-up to that was great.
He's another reporter then asked him, have you ever played the outfield? And Altuve looked at him. He says, have you seen me? He has not, in case you're wondering. He has played almost 15,300 major league innings. All but 6 of them have been at second base. The other 6 were at shortstop. So he's hardly played the left side of the infield, much less left field. You don't need to be a scout to have watched the Astros the last couple years and understand that Jose Altuve's defense at second base has declined pretty precipitously. His range is not what it once was. His throwing arm is not great. He is, by most metrics, if not the worst defensive second baseman in baseball, one of the worst defensive second basemen in baseball. This was going to be a conversation that the Astros were going to have with him at some point. Like, he was not going to finish his career playing second base for the Astros. They could not afford it, especially on this team with their top 2 starters this coming season are Framber Valdez and Hunter Brown, who generate more ground balls than any pitchers in baseball. And you saw it last year. The right side of that infield was not good last year behind both of those guys. Now, they got Christian Walker this offseason, 3-time Gold Glover. He's going to help.
Forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. that seems like forever ago.
I literally was just thinking, like, I wonder, they have a hole at first base. I wonder if that – I literally forgot about Christian Walker.
Yeah, it's why this is so insane that they've got their corners solved. Joe Espada said at FanFest he doesn't plan on playing Isaac Paredes anywhere in the outfield. Isaac Paredes, like Jose Altuve, has never played the outfield as a professional. He has played some second base, not a ton. He's also, I believe, 9 years younger than Jose Altuve, is more versatile, is just an overall better defensive player. I don't think he's a great defensive player, but he's better than Jose Altuve. So when you talk about it like that, it makes sense. Like, they were going to have this conversation. Whether this hastens it, I'm not sure. Whether this even happens, who knows? But you brought up a good point. You can survive a season with a bad defensive left fielder. The Astros ran Yordan Alvarez out there 60 times last couple of years, and we're fine. And Yordan Alvarez has a fine arm, but he's not a good outfielder. You can't survive. You can't keep surviving, especially with this pitching staff that we just talked about. Gets a ton of ground balls. You can't survive with a bad defensive second baseman for that long. And I think this is now just hastening the inevitable that Jose Altuve was going to move off the second base. I guess if this does happen, Tyler, obviously it's going to take a ton of work in spring training. It's going to take Jose Altuve having to do something at 35 years old that not Craig Biggio's done it, but not a ton of other guys have done. But you play 81 games a year at Dyken Park with the Crawford boxes. There's not a ton of room to cover. You go to some other ballparks that are short, that are more manageable. They can make this work, but long term, is left field Jose Altuve's long term home? Even let's presume that Bregman doesn't come back and that they run out this line.
I don't want to do that, Chandler.
Okay, well,
why would you make me do that?
I mean, you've done it for 2 months now.
Yeah, it's been terrible. You gave me hope. I'm not going to go back to that.
Jose Altuve literally said that this weekend. He was he's like, I had hope, then I didn't have hope. Now I'm in the middle.
Yeah, don't take it away again.
Like we said, Yordan Alvarez is here. He's under team control through 2028. Jose Altuve is under through 2029. So Alvarez is here for as long as Altuve's here. So the DH, they can't move him to DH because that's Yordan Alvarez's role unless they undertake some position change or try to make him a first baseman, try to make him a defensive player. Even if this doesn't happen, is left field where Jose Altuve is going to end his career?
I mean, I've always thought of, anytime you see like old Jackie Robinson pictures and you realize he played first base for like 10 years and you're like, what? I never remembered that. Like I've always kind of pictured Altuve ending up, over there, mainly probably because I've seen so many Astros legends careers in there. Like, Berkman by the end of his career was playing first base. And I mean, that poor guy couldn't get more than 2 steps away from first or he wasn't going to be able to get to the bag in time. And so, yeah, I mean, he's going to have to move eventually. But look, man, I watched mid-30s Carlos Lee play left field in Houston for 6 years, and it was fine. Like you can play left field. Like Adam Dunn spent his entire career in the outfield. It's gonna be okay as long as you're hitting. Now, the fear has always been with Altuve, like, oh, if the power goes and the speed goes, like then it's a really empty bat. But man, he keeps hitting 25 home runs a year, which I don't understand. I don't get how he does that. He's certainly not as fast as he used to be, but it's not like he's lost like he's not running like, like I said, Bergman was a center fielder. By 35, Bergman was like, you were in pain watching him run. Altuve is not there. He's still a threat to the other team and to himself on the base paths. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense. Like I said, anything to kind of get the band back together and get, Bregman here. I think that he's not doing this if they're going to sign, Jerks and Profar, right? Like he's not doing it because there's like we're going from the worst second baseman to the 15th best. So like, that's not why you do it. You do it because you're trying to show the team how much winning means. I mean, we talked about that with Josh in our last episode, how, Josh has a very, very team first approach to everything, including in the batter's box. So it's like, hey, if I need to shorten up and not go for a home run here, if I need to just ground out to second base to move a guy over, I will. And Altuve clearly has that, approach as well with team building. He's like, look, whatever we need to do to get the best players on the team, I'll play wherever. And man, it's so cool to have a guy like that has been in your town the whole time. Like, those guys don't come around very often. There are very few players anymore with, ubiquitous teams that they played for in any major sport, right? Like when LeBron is finished in the NBA, there's 8 different fan bases that are going to consider him part of their own. It's really cool to have Altuve play his whole career here and do whatever it takes to win.
He is as team first of an athlete as I think I've ever seen. Like, and I don't claim to have seen a wide array of athletes, but I mean, the way he could, given what he has accomplished in this city for that franchise, like he could be the biggest D-bag in the world and be perfectly entitled to it. He could say, I'm not moving off second base. I'm Jose Altuve. You're going to build a statue out there for me one day, and that's nothing. And I don't think anyone would begrudge him for that because of everything he has accomplished. The fact that he is this open to doing this, and the fact that the way he's framing it too, like he's framing this as I want to win a championship, and Alex Bregman makes our pursuit of a championship easier, makes us a better team and a more championship ready team. And I'm willing to do anything to do that. It's not about, where he's going to play. It's more about what is going to make the team the best. And there are very few athletes that have made as much money as Jose Altuve, that have the statistics, that have the legacy that he has, that would be willing to do that. And that's something that I think Astros fans should appreciate so much.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it didn't even shock me reading that, which is crazy. Like that tells you how much we already knew that about Altuve. Like that news comes out and I'm like, yeah, of course he'd be willing to do that. It's Jose Altuve. Like that says so much about him that literally I did not bat an eye. I was like, yeah, of course he would move off of the position that he's going to be in Cooperstown for, like he'll do whatever it takes, which again, it's just so cool to have a guy like that on the team that's in your city. It's really, really fun.
And I think you brought up something and something you said before that is salient here too. They're not doing this for any other player other than Alex Bregman.
Right.
This is a Bregman only situation. And Dana Brown pretty much acknowledged that. He was like, he literally said, we're surprised he's still out there. Like we just presumed he would be gone by now. And like, because he's there, like we have to do it just because of what Bregman means to that clubhouse, what he means to the city, he's probably right below Jose Altuve in terms of, and Justin Verlander in terms of just meaningful faces of this golden era. And if it was anybody else, this would not even be a question. And, there's something else that I've thought about in the last couple of days. What if Nolan Arenado says yes?
Yeah.
This whole thing is non-existent if he says, because you ain't moving Nolan Arenado to second base. If
Bregman would move to second.
He maybe. No, that's right. But again, you wonder, does Bregman want to play third somewhere? I mean, those other teams can give him the opportunity to play third. But if this does happen, there would have been so many serendipitous kind of events of like how this transpired that it would really be like a perfect kind of ending to this whirlwind Alex Bregman saga. And I think it's going to come to a head, within the next week or so. I got the sense reporting some stuff this weekend that there's going to be some movement in the Bregman market, coming in the next, and I don't want to put a timeline on it, but it's increase, like the traction's increasing here. This isn't a situation where we're going to have this. We're not going to be talking about this for the next 3 weeks leading up to spring training. I think we'll have a resolution somewhat soon. Another thing that we will have a resolution on very much sooner than that is Ryan Presley. And we saved this till the end of the podcast because for full disclosure, we're recording this on Sunday afternoon. It's very possible that Ryan Presley could be traded to the Chicago Cubs by the time you listen to this. As we record, there's been no decision made. The ball's in Ryan Presley's court. He's got a full no trade clause. The Astros have agreed to a deal basically to send him to the Cubs. He's just got to say yes or no. My feeling is, and this is based off of some reporting, this is based off of informed speculation, I believe he will waive his no trade clause and he will be traded to the Chicago Cubs. Tyler, if that happens, I think Ryan Presley will leave as one of the most undervalued and underrated Astros that I've covered. Your fandom predates my arrival here. I think he's probably one of the more undervalued and underrated Astros in their modern history.
Yeah, I think as far as relievers in Astros history go, I think it's Billy Wagner and then Ryan Presley. Like, I think he has been that important to the team. I mean, again, the Astros have been playing October baseball for a decade, and every one of those games, with the exception of last year, you watch the game and you go, if they can just get a lead in the ninth, Presley's coming in and it's over. Like, you just didn't worry about it. You didn't think about it. And he's been so good holding down the back end of the bullpen the whole time that he's been here. And we've talked about this, but every fan base thinks that their bullpen is the worst bullpen in baseball. Like, it literally, everyone thinks that, and it's just not true. Like, people just have this expectation that bullpens shouldn't give up runs, right? Like, whatever the score is, whenever the bullpen comes in, that's where it needs to be locked in. And so anytime something goes against that, people get, real upset. But Ryan Presley has been phenomenal for the Astros. And the Astros don't, they don't make it as far as they have the last 6-7 years without him. And not only has he been really good, but it's also saved them from having to go on the like free agent reliever carousel, right? Like, I mean, we all saw with Montero, it worked for a year and then it fell off the rails. Like, that never happened with Presley. And I want people listening to this to understand how valuable and how rare it is to be that good at being a reliever consistently for that long. That just does not happen. Like, it just doesn't. And so he's been amazing. And yeah, I mean, if he is done here, you wish him the best of luck. I certainly hope nobody is gonna have any hard feelings or anything like that. But yeah, he's been so good for the Astros.
I mean, just look at Josh Hader this year. Like, that, it is the personification of the volatility of relievers. Because when the Astros signed Josh Hader last winter, everyone thought, oh man, if the Astros take anything for any lead into the ninth inning, Josh Hader's going to protect it. And Josh Hader had a fine season, but he's shown he was mortal. Relievers are so volatile. That's why you don't see smart teams. That's why you don't see smart teams go on the free agent market and give massive contracts to relievers, because they know that the volatility, it's not worth investing long-term assets into such a volatile position. You see teams that will find guys on minor league deals, that will sign guys to 1-year deals, 2-year deals, and not give them a ton of money because of the volatility of the position. Ryan Presley showed you the opposite of that, just how consistent a guy can be. And we've talked about it before, maybe it's because he doesn't throw 100. Maybe
that's what it is. Yeah.
He doesn't have like that one aesthetically pleasing, wicked pitch, even though both his breaking balls are elite, but they're not going to end up on Pitching Ninja a ton, things like that. Like, he's just really consistent, really good. Was on the mound and had an integral role in the 2 biggest games ever played at the former Minute Maid Park in 2019. As we've talked about before, remember, limped off the mound after getting out of the 8th inning. in Game 6 of the 2019 ALCS. And then, of course,
Limp is a strong word. I thought they were going to have to bring out an ambulance for that guy. I still don't understand how he did that.
And then remember, he pitched in the World Series too. Like he didn't shelve it. Like, dude's tough. And then obviously got the last out of the 2022 World Series, induced the fly ball to Kyle Tucker, who is also a Chicago Cub.
Wait a minute.
I think
Astros North.
Baseball, man. It's a storybook that can only be written. And who knows? Maybe Alex Bregman.
Don't quit doing that. Stop it. I'm trying to have a good podcast here, and you're just ruining my day. But yeah, I mean, he's so good. And I mean, again, like think about last year. Like Taylor Scott had a crazy good year. He was unbelievably good for the Astros. If he had a 9.5 ERA in June and was cut, it would not shock me, because that's how baseball relievers work. Yeah,
right.
Like that's how this works. And so the fact that you could pencil Presley in for like a 2.5 ERA and 30 saves every year is astounding. And I hope people understand that there's like 5 pitchers in baseball that you can do that with in a given year. And the fact that the Astros had one for, the majority of their golden era is the reason that was their golden era. Like that's part of the reason that you're able to win so many games, is that you have a guy that you can trust in the back end of the bullpen.
And if it does happen, if Ryan Presley does, accept the trade to Chicago, the Astros bullpen like pretty immediately becomes a concern. And I think it was a concern even with Presley on the roster, because you ship Presley out, you've got Abreu and Hader, and you feel comfortable at the back end. But behind them, we just talked about how volatile relievers are. You think Taylor Scott's going to replicate the season he had last year, the outlier season he had? You've got Caleb Ort, you've got Forrest Whitley, maybe. You've got Brian King, like a lot of guys that you think like, oh, okay, but not a ton of established track records. But again, that's kind of how bullpens are, though. Like you get a lot of good stuff. You get a lot of good, maybe things you can unlock, use your pitching infrastructure, your lab to unlock some stuff and create a good bullpen. But I think
I bet Altuve could learn like a knuckleball. Maybe we could get him doing double duty and just taking care of everything.
He'd be down to do it. Pulling Ohtani, just he's going to play left field, and then
pulling Ohtani. How hard can it be?
All right, of course. Ohtani makes it look easy. So we will see if perhaps on opening day, Joe Espada calls. When he goes out to pull Framber Valdez, who I presume is going to pitch on opening day, he's going to point to left field. Jose Altuve is going to come run in and pitch the 7th inning against Soto, Nemo, and who knows, maybe Pete Alonso. But
that hat tip to the Crawford boxes is going to hit so hard. Him jogging out there, oh buddy.
You think he'll be able to see over the Crawford boxes? What's that mean?
I mean, I don't think anyone can. That's part of the reason that it's difficult out there. But yeah, I mean, it's wherever he is, he's going to get a big ovation in Houston. He's got that for life here,
as he should. And we will be there to hear it. We will be there to see it. Who knows where he'll be playing? Who knows who will be playing third, first? A lot up in the air. I have a feeling, Tyler, we may have to do an emergency pod this week. I think something is going to happen this week that will require us to do an emergency pod. We will let you know if and when that happens. Josh Reddick will be back on Wednesday on a ski lift. Who knows if he'll have clothes on? There's so many different things you guys can get if you subscribe to Crush City Territory, which you should. Subscribe on YouTube. Please rate and review us on Apple. You've already done such a good job that you're getting Josh Reddick from a ski lift. We'll have to have something else coming up. We'll have to bribe you in some other way to rate and review us. We'd really appreciate it. But if you want to do it out of the kindness and goodness of your heart, that'd be great too.
That's what Altuve would do. And I think that's the lesson we should all take. Be a team player, even though it's not rewarded. You do what you need to help the team.
and most of you have made just as much money and are just as secure in your own state. You can do it. You can afford it. What would Altuve do? Thank you again, everybody, for the support, and thank you for listening. And we will be back tentatively on Wednesday, but who knows? We could be back before that. Thanks, guys.
Bye.